you can expect that the minute you dose Depakote that it's going to be hard to think. You're going to risk lowering your IQ. You're going to risk shrinking your brain. What is up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Today's ASMR sip is 1907word.com. Coupon code Russo. ASMR Spritz Intelligent Elephant H2O. Here's your noises. Check it out in the description below. All other discounts in the pinned comment and description below to support this channel. Welcome back to PEDucation. So today's a special one. Today is going to be targeted towards the Post-Finasteride Syndrome people, the Post-Accutane Syndrome people, the post-SSRI sexual dysfunction people, the lion's mane, as well as the ashwagandha, saw palmetto. Any of these induced syndromes, I'm going to be doing a specific PD. This is a medication revolving around the one, the only sodium valproate, valproic acid, otherwise known as Depakote. Depakote was launched in 1967 as an anticonvulsant to prevent seizures, to deal with bipolar manias, and even to treat headaches. When I look at these syndromes, the root cause, in my opinion, is based around the AR. Did I come up with that? No. Why are there all these other theories of the root cause out there that people think it is when the funded research is at the AR? I don't know, but it's the AR. Why? Because I had it. So overexpression of AR systematically. So I'll have Andrew throw up Kennedy's disease. So a lot of people think the more AR, the better. That's what I would think too. Well, it gets to a point when there's so many AR that they bump into each other and just render the cell useless. It doesn't work. And that might be what explains the crash, right? Now there's more implementation and there's more ways to theorize around the crash, but I think the root cause of why people can't recover out, and there are people that can recover out because not everyone gets this horrendous side effect of, you know, these post-acute withdrawal syndromes, right? There are people whose AR aren't affected and maybe, you know, the neurosteroid cascades fall apart and they can recover out normal. Those aren't the people paying thousands of dollars to be healed. Those aren't the people suffering for decades with this shit. It's probably around the fact that their AR is systematically pretty much broken. So I'm going to be discussing my full recovery to the point I am now. Am I fully recovered? No, but I'm at a livable point that I'm sure a lot of you victims would like to be at, and I'm gonna showcase what I did. But I wanted to do a specific video around this drug because as a loving friend, I would not recommend this drug. As a person who definitely wanted to off myself and had a virtually unlivable life of not sleeping for months and overall shaking, tremoring, barely being able to walk, barely being able to talk because the AR in your brain are fucked up. And obviously the less recognizable AR to the brain, with the AR being messed up, you know, the brain's a quantum computer, so it's immediately going to reconfigure the amount of cytokines around the AR that are fucked up, meaning that the overall allo level that will come back when you have fucked up AR will probably render you unconscious for months. Okay, Depakote, right? What can you expect? So first off, let's go into, like I said, as a friend, I would not recommend Depakote. And as far as in this specific realm of who I'm talking to, this could insinuate another crash. And in my full video, I will be showcasing the exact trajectory of my recovery and the near-death moments in the recovery for you guys to take with a grain of salt. But let's go into how it acts. So that's not really well understood. Valproic acid, I kind of think, you know, that valproic acid's like that old psych ward where, you know, some, like, they're hanging some crazy person, they just IV them with Depakote until they're calm and vegetable-fied again. That's kind of like what pops up in my mind when I think of this drug. And from my editor behind the chair who had to deal with me on over a gram of Depakote constantly, you know, he definitely got to see firsthand my fucking persona be even more destroyed than it already was. So just know that it's not going to be a fun ride. If you, like, I asked a bunch of, you know, victims if they've tried Valproate, and again, they say they do, and I'm like, well, how long did you try it? They didn't try it that long. You know, it needs to be tried for a very long time. For me, it was like a little bit over 2 months at an extreme dosage, but preferably probably like 4 months, right? 4 months if you could tolerate it. So unless you have tried that sort of method with Valproate, I wouldn't leave it off the table for being one of the key factors in actually overcoming the overexpression of AR, because I knew instantly when the, I'll have Andrew throw up, nuclear switch happened. But it's very hard to initiate a nuclear switch, especially at the size I am. Basically, Valproate acts on the GABAergic system. So you have dopamine, which is like the energy. GABA is what you get when you sleep. You need the dopamine system to be working correctly to initiate the GABA system in my mind. AKA why I couldn't sleep, because my dopamine system was fucked from all the AR shit. Who else knows what was wrong with me during that time? But the GABA system also defeats dopamine, right? It defeats dopamine. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't have a lot of reading into this section. This whole thing has been obviously out of my wheelhouse, and I'm learning as I go along here. You can expect that the minute you dose Depakote, that it's going to be hard to think. You're going to risk lowering your IQ. You're going to risk shrinking your brain, right? Your brain is going to shrink, so the dopamine's firing in your brain while you're flooding the brain with GABA from Valproate. Eventually, the GABA is going to build up in the entire body, and you're going to notice that there's going to probably be some sort of tremoring going on, a tic. You know, this is, I guess I'll say, completely normal. It's not normal, but this is another side effect that I discovered along the way of my Valproate journey. So you're going to have basically constant tremoring. It's going to get hard to breathe. You're going to have it, valproic acid build up in your throat, so I'd constantly be wheezing. You know, I did a lot of wheezing on Valproate, and you're not gonna be able to digest shit. Yeah, I only ate seafood. I remember I binged eat up to a womanly meaning like I got fat. None of my androgens held any, like, none of my muscles could hold anything. I looked fat, woman like at 230, and then by the end of Valproate, I think I was like 211. I could kind of hold down seafood. Sometimes I would throw it up. I would throw it up constantly. As far as the types of Depakote that you can get traditional valproic acid, which is a very short half-life. I forget how many times you would have to dose it throughout the day. I would definitely get the extended release if you're gonna try to mess with it to try and heal yourself, and the extended release needs to be religiously dosed twice a day. Could do 8 a.m., 8 p.m. But if you miss the dosing, especially when it's baked in your system for an hour, for even like, if you miss the dosing by even an hour off, you are now at a seizure risk. I could say that you're potentially at a seizure risk even on the Valproate. As far as how Valproate impacted my mood is I could not think. It's funny, I would never stop working once, and when I would come on set, I couldn't think of the next sentence I was gonna say. So it was very weird. It's gonna make you want to feel like a vegetable and stare at a wall. It's gonna remove all your persona. Not that there was much of my persona left at that stage of when I was using it, but yeah, you can kiss your persona goodbye. You're gonna be a vegetable. Had multiple family members come over concerned. My girlfriend's mother is a nurse practitioner and was very concerned about the dosages of Valproate I was doing at that time. Obviously, you will lower your IQ if you're not thinking constantly. I think with my job, it was easy enough for me to stay very mentally busy, but even at my most mentally busy state, if I'm on Valproate, my brain is shrinking, I'm getting stupider. Even if I'm thinking at 1,000 miles an hour, that buildup of GABA is diffusing and defeating all of that. as far as the bipolar shit. So I read into Valproate a lot as far as, you know, Reddit. I like to read people who used it for bipolar, and the side effects were pretty hilarious. So I'll say it from a bipolar person's perspective that it would not stop manias. So I think that was the original idea with it, is that you would bake the GABA and it would calm you down and it would stop the manias. So it was weird. At first, when I was doing it, I could feel like I was having one, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't experience it. And then like after a mania, you have a crash, and randomly I would just feel ever so ridiculously exhausted after just sitting there nothing. So it was still going on the whole time. It was being masked, but it eventually got to a point where my dopamine signaling raised to meet the super physiological GABA level. And that's when my AR came back and I knew that I could get off it, right? But it didn't prevent it at all. In fact, you know, I think it would actually make them worse. It's basically like Goku and Vegeta Training Center. It's like literally like, you know, making the mania worse in my opinion, because you're like forcing the dopamine to go even higher for it to happen. And I would not, you know, recommend anyone use it for that method at all. I think just stay away from it completely. As far as how it fixes the saturation or the expression, my bad, of androgen receptors, it inhibits histones. And more importantly, it just fucking wrecks your body and forces epigenetic changes. You are vibrating all day. I would compare it towards like, you know, like people, Andrew threw up a little study that showcases HIIT cardio causing HDAC inhibition. It would be like you're sprinting all day while doing nothing. So your epigenes are open, able to express themselves, and overall HDACs have been seen to lower AR overexpression. I think the main thing that separates Depakote XR from other methods of recovery is the length of time, right? You're getting a constant HDAC inhibition that's extreme, and it's never ending. It's going on every day. It's never ending, right? I had a lot of temporary recoveries of my AR, whether that be dosing massive amounts of steroids, you know, taking sodium butyrate. Obviously tried sodium butyrate before I tried sodium valproate, and I would experience little comebacks. Nothing like actually using valproate to beat the genes back into submission of having normal amounts of AR. I did not just do valproate. I'll reveal that in the full recovery, but I do feel like this is the gem as far as the fucking horrible, could potentially end up worse, could potentially have a seizure, but definitely would deal with the AR overexpression problem. If there's another compound that comes to mind that you think would be better at dealing with this, comment it below, because I don't want to be recommending this. You know, the morals around me discussing this compound has me, you know, not really for showcasing it. Why I wanted to put this PEDucation first so I could read the comments, honestly, for my full recovery video. But I learned about Depakote from Tony and Leo. You know, Tony contacted me when I had the lion's mane bullshit and said for that stuff that Leo recommended Valproate. Now Leo painted Valproate as this magical drug that changes your genes and makes you better. It's like, that wasn't my experience, and it kind of makes me look at Leo of like, oh, maybe that's how he got his dopamine signaling to a point where he's beyond exploding. He's like hypernuclear all the time, because one round of Valproate for 2 months and my manias are worse. They're worse. I feels like the genes changed and my dopamine signaling around it is worse. Maybe it'll go away, I don't know. As far as things you need to consider side effects wise. So Valproate is going to cause birth defects. It mutates sperm. That's how you know it's fucking working, to change your AR overexpression back. So if you do 1 round of Valproate, I would wait a little bit over a year to try and conceive a child off the Valproate, just to be completely safe. This also impacts females. They can have stillbirths. It's a fucking horrendous, horrible drug that isn't truly, we don't know what all it does, other than the fact that it obviously acts on GABA. Obviously inhibits histones and allows the epigenes to fucking go whichever way they want, and that's what we need. We need that AR overexpression to go away. That AR overexpression is a variable for a bazillion other epigenes, so that going away really made my life more livable. Sure, I still look like a Skeletor at 250 and my strength isn't there, and you know, I'm not fully back, but like before the Valproate, I didn't want to live. There's no reason I could, like, it was like I was unconscious all the time. I couldn't experience dopamine or serotonin. My libido wasn't gone, right? My libido didn't, like, it hurt. I got pins and needles when I got an erection sometimes, and that the erection looked different than it's supposed to. It didn't feel like my dick. Right now, my libido is not fully back where it's supposed to be. It's as if I lost my libido. So now it feels like a normal, I lost my libido. With the AR overexpression, my dick got burned off. It got electrocuted. It fucking changed colors. It fucking looked demented. And that's from all the AR bunching up and burning it off. Now that it's normal, even flaccid, it'll be hanging normal depending on my current variable that I'm trying to fix the final fucking thing. So you can expect, right, the birth defects, it's liver toxic as shit. So you better run Tutka the entire time you're on it. Don't not run Tutka, invest $100, $80 a bottle in Tutka, run that alongside it. And it's gonna cause your hair to fall out. It's just, my hair was falling out like at a hilarious rate on it. For a lot of people, they report weight gain with Depakote. I couldn't eat anything. I would eat something and like hours later, it was still in my stomach, completely undigested. And you can feel the Depakote in your stomach, right? It's just gonna shut the fucking stomach off, and it was so hard to eat. My poop turned like yellow, and then it was green, and then it turned black, and then it ended up in like a dark, like I was pooping out coal. So obviously it's fucking up histones a lot. Oh yeah, going to sleep is weird on it. I always felt like I was gonna wake up and I was just going to be an empty vessel. If you are going to try and train on Depakote, you cannot do cardio. You are definitely at a cardiac risk on it because the GABA is fucking up all that shit. Your whole body's in the state of being fucked up, which is allowing your genes hopefully to re-express themselves in the correct manner. When I do the full video, a lot of people report that Valproate ends them up worse than before. I did have what's called a crash after the Valproate, but in my opinion, it was all those AR I had now being recognized again, which leads towards another variable that I think I'm currently dealing with, which would be what everyone thinks it is right off the bat, which is neurosteroids. If you never fix AR overexpression, your cytokines will constantly be programmed to the amount the brain thinks it needs. Your serotonin will be fucked up because your allo isn't there. So your serotonin, in my opinion, will probably creep up to meet the allo. I'll have Andrew throw up that study. We have seen this time and time where people are looking upstream, not at the root variable. It's like in programming, do you trust the debugger? No, you fucking don't trust the debugger. You look at the debugger, where to find, okay, I found it at this line. It could be way down there or way up there in the program. And I personally think all the people complaining it's AR overexpression, and the only thing I can feel confident in saying that this could reduce it is Valproate, because it's a constant fucking horrible poisoning of yourself for months, right? Trying to replicate new RNA, causing a nuclear switch so all your AR go back to normal, meaning this needs to be abused for months, and it also needs to be tolerated while you're going to feel like your death, you know. Just like I looked like I was gonna die the whole day. I looked horrible. I look at myself in the mirror, look horrible. My hair is falling out, like just like one of those things where after I got off the Valproate, that's when I noticed it worked, right? My AR felt recognized again. I can get pumps normally again, and everything became much more bearable. Now it points me towards the allo level. So now the allo level has to come up and meet all the AR that I just reactivated that I always had. And that's a whole different battle, which I'll be discussing in the full vid. I wanted to make this Valproate video before because I want to warn people about it. I don't want to be responsible in the fact of, oh, you just take this and everything goes back to normal. That was not how it went at all. And I would not recommend this unless I could find, like, I couldn't find anything better. I couldn't find anything better. I could do cancer HDAC, drugs if I get a hold of those, but I couldn't find anything better. I'm gonna make this PEDucation in the fact that I want people to truly read into what Valproate does before trying to fuck with it, because I can see why everyone backs out of it and they feel worse on it. You're gonna lose your libido on it. You need dopamine for, you know, your libido to work. So when your brain is firing the electrical signal down to the dick, that GABA is gonna come in there and fuck that up. So you're gonna regress to go forward is kind of what I'm getting at. How far you regress. The last thing I'll touch on now that I'm at like 25 minutes is dosages. Depakote can be dosed anywhere between, for like a headache, like 500 twice a day, towards a serial killer maniac bipolar 1 at 2,000 to 2,500 a day, split into 2 dosings. The dosage I had the nuclear switch on to where I instantly felt bipolar, instantly felt like myself again, because remember, I didn't have any manias the whole time. I was sick like that. So my dopamine was obviously fucked. 2,000, that's what I needed. It gets brutal. You can expect 500 to be like, oh, this isn't so bad. Actually, this is kind of nice. Actually, you know, like, you creep up to 1,000 twice a day. You're puking, hair falling out, your fucking shit's whack. Like, literally, your shit, like, you just like, oh, that's coming out of me. I'm wheezing. I can taste it in my mouth when I go in the sauna. I sweat it, I taste it. When I would train on it, I would have these weird like seizure things. I wanted to eat food. You can't taste food on it, so you can't taste food correctly. I wanted to have some food. I was at a nice restaurant. I decided to skip my pill for like 30-40 minutes. Almost had a seizure. If I didn't have my pill there, I would have had a seizure. So it really needs to be on point that this dosing is consistent. It's super dangerous. Definitely got to be careful driving. As far as when I go into the higher dosages, I just felt deathly ill. I obviously felt like I was poisoning myself. After I came off the Valproate, my brain recognized all these new AR, my personality slowly came back, and I can feel my allopreg actually fighting upwards. And I'm sure my cytokines reprogrammed themselves with more 5AR, more all of that. I'm sure that was all reprogrammed because that nuclear epigene variable has been switched. And that's why I felt like I was 90 years old. I was basically unconscious, could not think like a male with androgen sparking thought, couldn't think of any sentences I was gonna say, and then my whole body was brittle and going to deteriorate to like 160 pounds if I didn't stop that. So I hold muscle like a male again. You know, my chest is filling back out, arms are filling back out, legs are still obviously fucked, but it's not from AR anymore. It's from what everyone thinks it is now. Everyone thinks it's these neuro cascades. I'm not saying that's not a problem. That's probably how the crash happens. In the program, that's where the variable's wrong, or the if and or loop fails and launches a different sequence. The root cause to get out of it is AR overexpression, which Valproate was one of the key variables I used to overpower it. I stacked this with a specific androgen that I will showcase in the full video. I will see you guys in my next one.